Imagine waking up tomorrow without your smartphone, your alarm clock, your soft mattress, or even your clothes. No coffee maker is buzzing in the kitchen, and there is definitely no local pharmacy down the street if you wake up with a headache. For the vast majority of human history, this wasn't a nightmare scenario. It was just a regular Tuesday. We often look at our prehistoric ancestors through a lens of pure survival. We picture them as brutish, hyper-muscular cave dwellers, sprinting away from saber-toothed cats, grunting and throwing rocks at anything that moved. We view them as fundamentally different from us. But if you took a newborn baby from a Paleolithic tribe 50,000 years ago and raised them in the modern world, they could grow up to be an aerospace engineer, a jazz pianist, or a software developer. Their brains were just like ours. Because they had the exact same brains, they faced the exact same fundamental human problems we face today. What do I wear? How do I fix this sickness? Can I get a drink around here? And what time is it anyway? Today, we are going to peel back the layers of deep time to look at the surprisingly clever, deeply social, and sometimes accidental ways our ancestors conquered the challenges of daily life. Welcome to the ultimate guide to being a prehistoric human. Let's start with a rather vulnerable realization. Humans are the only animals on Earth silly enough to require artificial fabric just to exist outside. Walk into any forest, and every deer, squirrel, and bear is perfectly dressed for the occasion. They have fur. We, on the other hand, look like giant, pink, sweaty raisins. So what happened? Why did we trade our built-in, luxurious fur coats for a lifetime of doing laundry? To understand the invention of clothing, we first have to understand the loss of fur. Millions of years ago, our ancestors looked a lot more like chimpanzees. But as the climate changed and African forests turned into open, sun-drenched savannas, our ancestors had to adapt. They began walking on two legs and traveling long distances to scavenge and hunt. Running around under the blazing tropical sun in a thick fur coat is a recipe for heat stroke. So, evolution made a trade. We traded our thick body hair for millions of microscopic sweat glands. This allowed us to sweat and cool down efficiently while running, a superpower called persistence hunting. We became the ultimate long-distance runners of the animal kingdom, literally running our prey to death by overheating them. But this brilliant evolutionary hack came with a massive catch. When the sun went down, the savanna got cold. And when we eventually decided to migrate out of Africa into Europe and Asia, things went from chilly to absolutely freezing. Our ancestors looked down at their hairless bodies, looked at the snowy landscapes of Ice Age Europe, and realized they had a serious engineering problem. The solution consisted in borrowing from the neighbors. They started skinning animals they hunted, treating the hides, and draping them over their shoulders. But how do archaeologists know exactly when this happened? After all, leather and fur rot away to nothing over thousands of years. The answer lies in a rather microscopic, itchy piece of detective work: the evolution of the louse. Scientists discovered that head lice and clothing lice are two completely different species. By studying the DNA of these tiny parasites, geneticists calculated exactly when clothing lice split off from head lice. The verdict lands around 70,000 to 100,000 years ago. This matches perfectly with the time humans began migrating out of Africa into colder climates. Clothing quickly evolved from a simple blanket thrown over the shoulders to a highly sophisticated technology. Our ancestors invented the bone needle. By carving tiny holes into pieces of animal bone, they could use sinew or plant fibers to sew tight-fitted garments. They created underwear, boots, and hooded parkas. Without this incredible textile revolution, humans never would have survived the Ice Age, let alone populated the entire globe. So, we managed to stay warm. But what happened when our ancestors caught a nasty cold, ate a bad mushroom, or broke a leg while hunting a woolly mammoth? Without modern hospitals, you might think a broken bone or a severe infection was an automatic death sentence. But archaeological discoveries show that our ancestors were far more medically capable than we give them credit for. First, let's talk about the original pharmacy, Mother Nature. Long before the invention of synthetic pills, early humans possessed an incredibly deep, generational knowledge of plants. If you have ever seen a dog eat grass when it has an upset stomach, you know that self-medication is an ancient biological instinct. Our prehistoric ancestors were not mere survival machines driven solely by basic primal instincts. Instead, they were creative problem solvers, innovative engineers, compassionate caretakers, and deeply social creatures. When we strip away our modern preconceptions, we discover that ancient humans faced the exact same fundamental questions we do today regarding health, community, leisure, and time. By examining the structural realities of their daily lives, we can uncover how they navigated their world with profound intelligence. Their approach to healthcare and physical trauma offers a striking example of this sophistication. Long before modern pharmacies existed, early humans turned nature into a medical toolkit through generational knowledge. Archaeological evidence from El Sidrón cave in Spain highlights this beautifully. Scientists analyzing the fossilized dental plaque of a Neanderthal who suffered from a painful tooth abscess discovered traces of poplar bark, which contains salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. Remarkably, his plaque also contained traces of the penicillium fungus, a natural antibiotic. This individual was actively treating pain and infection tens of thousands of years before the modern discovery of penicillin. When natural remedies were not enough to counter major physical trauma, the true superpower of humanity emerged: deep empathy and social support. In 1957, the discovery of a Neanderthal skeleton known as Shanidar I in an Iraqi cave revealed an incredible story of communal care. This individual had suffered a massive blow to his face that left him blind in one eye, possessed a withered and amputated arm, and walked with a severe limp from a healed leg injury. In a purely brutal, utilitarian world, he would have died instantly. Yet, skeletal analysis proved he lived into his 40s or 50s. His tribe did not abandon him. They carried him, fed him, and kept him safe. In archaeology, a healed bone is the ultimate sign of civilization because it proves that someone took the time to protect and nurse a vulnerable companion. Beyond survival and medicine, our ancestors also found innovative ways to unwind, leading to the accidental discovery of alcohol. This relationship began millions of years ago when tree-dwelling primates sought out fallen, fermenting fruits as a dense source of calories. Humans eventually evolved a specific gene mutation, the ADH4 enzyme, allowing them to process ethanol much faster than other primates. By the late Paleolithic and early Neolithic eras, this biological trait met human curiosity. When baskets of wild grains or berries were left out in the rain, environmental yeasts triggered fermentation. The resulting bubbly liquid became an instant hit. This relationship was so profound that many anthropologists now champion the beer before bread hypothesis, suggesting that early humans transitioned into agricultural societies not to bake bread, but to secure a steady supply of ingredients for brewing. Alcohol became a vital social lubricant, solidifying alliances, fostering communication, and anchoring spiritual rituals. While alcohol helped bind communities together, their daily lives were structured by an understanding of time that differs fundamentally from our modern perspective. Today, we live by the mechanical ticking of clocks, slicing our days into rigid, artificial segments. Prehistoric humans, however, lived by ecological time. Their lives expanded and contracted according to the natural cycles of the sun, moon, and seasons. Without artificial lighting, their sleep schedules were perfectly synchronized with the planet's circadian rhythms. They practiced bifurcated sleep, resting for a few hours after dusk, waking around midnight for a period of quiet socialization or ritual by the campfire, and then falling into a second sleep until dawn. Time was also measured through deep environmental milestones rather than numerical age. An individual measured their life by the number of harsh winters survived, or the recurring migrations of animal herds. They possessed an intimate understanding of when specific berries would bloom and when salmon would run upstream. They did not attempt to save or spend time. They simply existed within it. Ultimately, looking back at these diverse aspects of prehistoric life, reveals a mirror of our own existence. The next time you put on a jacket, take medicine, share a drink, or stargaze, you are participating in ancient traditions that kept humanity alive. Underneath our modern technology, we are still sitting around that same campfire together.